about these guys here. These are the different forms you're going to work with. The two most important forms you're going to work with are the one we've been talking about all class. That's been vertex form. And then the other one we've been mentioning, which is our zeros form, also known as factored form. You're going to see that your factoring skills may come in handy with that factored form. Now, we kind of went over this guy ahead of time for us to like make sense of those or the function properties and that kind of stuff. But let's just dive into and have notes on what these guys specifically mean as it pertains to this guy here and how you can kind of like find stuff with them. So standard or vertex form, AHK, we already talked about the fact that A tells me whether it's fat, skinny, up, down, and HK is basically our starting point, okay? So for this guy right here, this chart is how my brain works. This is how I would construct a memory aid, would be to have all of these components all in one place, okay? Strictly for decoding purposes. So H, if I'm given a rule, okay, then H is basically the real value is opposite of the formula, right? So if you had in this guy here, let's just write down an example. Y is equal to 2, x minus 5 squared plus 1, then H would be equal to 5. You can use that guy right there. Let's see if I can pause this guy.
Just 2 seconds.
Opposite value, so from the formula 8, the real value to graph it would be H is equal to 5. The K value, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can put this one down. Okay, don't confuse it. You can even just write here, don't be dumb, it is what it is. Okay, or you can just write, it is what it is. K is equal to K. Okay, like, it is what it is. Okay, K is equal to 1. Don't overthink it. Maybe we can put that down. Don't overthink it. Okay, but this is just for decoding purposes. Okay. Now we'll get into what becomes more complicated is that once we get into these sections here, there's actually going to be formulas we have to use to go ahead and solve it. You'll notice that certain formulas align really well with decoding and other ones that aren't so much. Now, the zeros, if you're looking for it, there are specific formulas that work for this guy. Okay? The other thing is you can just use algebra for it. Okay, but I've got this here as we're either looking for zeros in this case, or we can also use the same formula. I'm going to put this here to find x values. Okay, to find x values. So you're going to have x is equal to h plus or minus the square root of negative k over a. Right. And it's x's. You can put x's if you want. X's. Do not forget, and you can put this as like a little note here. Use, if I said real values, does that make sense? Use real values, not the ones you see in the formula. Like as in, so use real values. Yeah, values. As in, the one that really people screw up, I want you to use h is equal to 5 in that scenario, not negative 5. That's where people will screw that one up. So this is your first formula. This is your get out of jail free card. The other way you can use this is to just use algebra, but we'll show those guys a little bit later on. Okay, and to find the rule, so this is just strictly a decoding thing, you're going to be presented with options. If they give you a vertex, so H and K, and a point, just an XY, you can find A. And I'll give you an example for that in the next page. You can find A. So when I say you're missing a rule, you know how last year they're like, find the rule from 2 points. And you would use that formula, and you would find the rule. Yeah. You would find the M as part of the rule. That's what's happening here. These are the things you need to solve for A. Okay? Now, so I'll leave that there for a second. So you need a vertex, you need a point to find A. Now, general form kind of stinks. Okay? We didn't really talk about this guy yet, but what I will point out is A is going to tell you right now whether it's fat, skinny, facing up, facing down. So we'll underline him as a parameter that matters. B is nonsense. Your group last year kept wanting to use B for things. It's nonsense. It's there. You can use it in the quadratic formula, but on the graph, it tells me nothing. C, however, and this one's actually kind of neat, actually tells me the y-intercept. You may not need that at all, okay? But it's a nice little thing to know. So C, y-intercept, y-intercept. Yeah. So what that means is like literally you can kind of graph it, but not really because I don't know where the low point is. I don't know where the zeros are. I just know that it's like facing up, down, skinny, and fat, and I know where the y-intercept is, but it could be in so many other places as a result of that. So less important, but is what it is. Now, these next guys here, we're going to have a strict series of formulas, okay? And in fact, if you don't get it down today, let me pause this for a second. Okay. So on these guys here, we've got the H value. Now, you know how you use the quadratic equation and you use like A, B, and C for different things? This guy works the same way, okay? So H is equal to negative B over 2A. You do not need the C for this guy. That does not change anything. But that's basically it. If there's a question where you need to find the axis of symmetry and they gave you a quadratic function in general form, this is what you need to do. Okay? So the reason why I put it this way, by the way, is that it's I'm not going to say choose your own adventure kind of thing, but when you back out and you have this guy all filled in, when you start a question that's given to you later on, you're not going to do all of this crap, right? It's going to be like they give you a rule that's in this format, and they're like, the question may ask something along the lines of, if you had something that looked like this, and it's Sam, okay, and Sam throws a football, okay? And they say the max height that he reached, or what time, so this is time, and this is height, and it's a weird question, but they're like, what time did Sam's throw reach its max height? What time did Sam's throw reach its max height? And you're like, what the heck? What's going on here? What they mean in that case is, right, he threw the ball, its max height's here. The max height, K, is shared, happens at the same time as H, right? That H and K go together. The max height is always with that like H value. The H value is your axis of symmetry. So Sam knows this. He looks to his formula sheet and says, they're asking me to find H. This is the formula that tells me how to solve for H. That's what I'm going to do. That would basically be it. You would only use this section of it, and then that would be it. A lot of the questions usually have like multiple steps in them, but I wouldn't worry too much about that right yet. We're just doing baby steps now. So my K parameter, when I'm dealing with this, my K is equal to 4AC minus B squared all divided by 4A. Okay. So this one you have to use everything. Right? And then the one down here, you've used this guy before. It looks ugly, right? X is, how do I find it? Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. You've seen that guy before. This could be one, right, where they give you the quadratic equation. So as an example for this guy, here's Sam again. Okay, he kicks a soccer ball. And they ask a question, right? And actually here, we're going to do two people. You've got Sam, and then you've got Easton, who's like a lot taller, okay? And they both kick a soccer ball, okay? And there's two different functions, and they're like, who kicked? They both started at the same point. Who kicked the soccer ball further? So you're like, well, I have the quadratic functions. I will plug it in, and I'm going to get two zeros. And the two zeros that Sam spits out are going to be 1 and 4 because he kicked it 3 feet, right? He kicked it 3 feet. And then Easton, 1 and 10,000 feet, okay? Now, what we would add, we're good, Sam? We're still good?
Yeah.
We're okay, yeah. Just like thinking the ways you can keep on your car, yeah? We would then be able to say that Easton kicked the ball farther, but you know what would be weird is if you solved this guy in this function, you would get two answers, 1 and 10,000. I'm hoping you would know in this case, we reject the 1 because that was the starting point, and then where it landed would be the bigger number. But in this instance, that's the situation as it's phrased. I look at the big board. They were asking for who kicked it further. Well, that's where it landed. That's where it landed. The zeros are the ground, and I'm going to use that formula there. Okay? So it's good to have this guy in one place because otherwise it just becomes like a nightmare to kind of solve everything. Anyway. So, well, let's say when it comes to finding the rule in this case, it's rare. They do it, but it basically would mean you would need most of the rule. Most of the rule and a point. And what I mean by that is they would basically give you y is equal to a x squared plus 2x plus 1. So they give you the majority of it, and then they just gave you a point, 7 and 2. And then you would plug that guy in and solve. Here's basically the nuts and bolts of the rest of it here, because we're running out of time. The zeros form, the A, the Z1, the Z2. This guy tells me fat, skinny. The Z1 and Z2, we know where those guys go. The H parameter, this guy's actually quite easy in this one. Formula's not hard at all. The one thing I'll point out, I can find H by using Z1 plus Z2 divided by 2, or you can just logic it out. The one thing I would point out, where do people screw up? Use real values. If it said -2 and -9, you're going to go 2 plus 9 divided by 2. Don't use the fake ones. Don't use the formula ones, use the real ones. Okay? K parameter. This guy is weird. And I want you to add this as well, just at the top, because it matters more than anything. This is the only guy on the whole board right here where you need to get something else first. And what I mean by that is need H first. I cannot solve for K unless I have H. It's the only one like that. Okay? And then this next part is up to you. Don't write it down yet. You decide what makes sense for your brain first. So you can write it out like this. K will be equal to A, H minus Z1, H minus Z2. Okay? You can write it out that way. Or you can just know, once I get H, I'm literally just plugging in the X value. H is an X value. I am literally just plugging in an X value to get its partner Y. Most people like this Some people, this confuses them. And then they prefer to just know once I get an X value, I put it in. So you choose which one makes sense for your brain. Okay. Maybe put them both down just to just to establish the idea of that's all this guy is. We're essentially just using the formula. We're using the rule to plug it in. Sorry, I'll pull that up, Carly. Okay. Sorry about that. And then the last one, zeros form. Okay. Opposite, right? Opposite from formula. Right? So if it was the example that we had up there, right? Y is equal to negative 2, x minus 2, x minus 9. Then it would be z1 is 2, z2 is 9. You can put that down there. Okay? And then last but not least, find the rule. You need both zeros and a point to find A. I guess that was easy enough to do. So that is basically the big board in a nutshell. Okay? And remember to smash that like and subscribe.